Hi and welcome to K Warner Studio. Thank you for joining me today. Today's project is a gatefold card with a shutter inside. Both of these cards are made the exact same way with the same layout. The only difference is the paper. This has a Velcro closure. It opens up. The message is on the inside. Close it, the message goes away. Open it, the message appears. And this one here opens with the Velcro closure, opens and closes the same way. If you notice, this is a circle punch of this particular design went on this belly band. Both of them use 2 sheets of 6x6 paper. And I have a couple other designs here. This was made from the July Simon Says stamp card kit. This here was as well. This was from the June kit, I believe. And then this isn't from the kit. This has a butterfly on the inside, opens and closes. And then this here was another Simon Said card kit. This was a July kit. So let's get started. So you'll need one card base, 8.5 by 5.5, as well as 2 sheets of 6x6 paper and a half a sheet of 8.5 by 5.5 coordinating cardstock. But all of the information is going to be underneath in the Show More section. You'll also need a pair of scissors with a long blade, a bone folder, a pencil, an eraser, a ruler, some good adhesive, and some foam tape. So let's get going. So we have these are for the front. So these are 2 pieces of cardstock that measure 2 by 5 3/8. And then you have 2 pattern paper, and this measures 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. And this is your inside piece where the shutters go underneath. And this measures, the matte cardstock measures 3 by 5.5, and the pattern paper is 2 7/8 by 5 3/8. And then the shutter is made out of 2 pieces that are 4 by 3.5, and then we have an extra piece here so I can show you how to find your middle without all kinds of measuring. And this just needs to be the same dimension, 4 by 3.5, and the same thickness cardstock. So don't use a real thin one if you're using thicker cardstock here. I'm going to use cut a flower out of the center, and I made this with Do Crafts nesting dies, but there are many nesting dies out there that you can use for this, or a punch. It's totally up to you. The only thing you have to worry about is that this image isn't any bigger than 2.5 inches across the widest section, because you need to have that stability for the shutters to work nicely. Okay, so let's get this started. So this is one piece of paper that's cut in half, so we'll put the extra one aside for our next card. And let's do some scoring here. So your scoring tool, this is pretty thick. This is 110 Neenah Solar Whites, so I need to make sure I get a nice score mark. So we need 2 1/8. So be careful that it's on the 1/8, because I've done it before and done the 2 1/4, and it's just not the right dimension. So now we're going to rotate this over to the next side. So we want our score mark, the ridges, to be both on the same side of the paper. So don't flip it over, just keep it on the same side. And score at 2 1/8. And we'll put that aside for a second. And then our 2 shutter material, put the 4 at the top so it's in the landscape mode, and we're going to score at 3.5. Oops, just jump to the line there. And then we're going to score this at 3.5. Okay, we're going to put these pieces away, as well as the scoring tool. Okay, so now let's turn this over so we have the ridges facing us, and we're going to go over the mountain, and we're going to burnish that line, and we're going to do the same thing here, over the mountain. I'm going to burnish there. So as you can see, we have a nice fold with no overlapping of the cardstock, which is ideal. So we'll set that aside for a moment, and we're going to glue these panels to the matte layer. So this, your cardstock is your matte layer, and your design paper is a design. So just watch that you put them in the same direction. I like to cut a pattern in half so that your brain automatically forces things to pair up, and when that happens, your audience, let's say, they're going to be busy trying to match up the pattern, and you can make the eye go where you want it to. So I want my eye to be right in the center where my flower is going to be, my flower cutout. As I said, I use nesting dies, but you can use punches or free-handed if you want to. I've seen these cards and cupcakes and flowers and just different miscellaneous shapes, and just some really amazing cards, actually, when you start to think about the work involved some people put into them. So I just want to make sure that my pattern's matched up, which it is. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next piece. And we're going to attach these. So I use this wet glue here instead of the tape, because I need to have a few seconds to match everything up, because it's not my strong point, laying everything perfectly. I'd like to say that it is, but quite honestly, it's not. I need that wiggle room, and if I can get it with using this, I'm really happy. Now the only thing that I'll mention is when you go to do the inside piece, this piece here, just make sure you put glue through the center, so when you pop out your image there, you don't have anything showing that it's glued on. This will be loose, and it'll move back and forth as the shutter moves back and forth over time. And some people like to show off the cards, so you don't want that to happen. So you can see that these two join up. It continues with the pattern. So we'll open this. Now we need to lay this in here, and we want this to be centered. Okay, so let me move this down a bit. And we want this to be centered, so we know that if we lay these on these lines here, that should be fine here. So that should be the center of that card. So I'm just going to put little lines here so I can find my center when I need to, because we need to find what is the center of this flower. So we know that it is from end to end 1.5 inches. Okay, so 1/2 inch is 75.75, and widest part is a little bit more than 1.5 inches, so we'll put that right there. Let's see what we have. So sorry, keep you in frame here. Easier said than done sometimes. And then we know that we have to run this down here like this. So that should be pretty close to the center. And we're going to be more concerned about this line here. So that's about it. So here's how this goes. So we're going to burnish these here. So it's over the mountain, so the ridge is here. I'm going to fold this over and burnish this. And do the same thing here. Okay, now here to find the center point, we need to find the center point of these as well. So the easiest way to do that is to fold this corner to corner. Make sure that you have it correctly. So take the time to make sure that everything is joined there, and burnish that well. Okay, and now we're going to do it the opposite direction. So taking time to make sure all of your corners are staying the way it needs to be. Okay, do that, and now we're going to burnish that as well. Now when we open this up with your four measurement across here, this is the center. So now what we need to do is take your ruler, and we need to draw a line from the corner of that point right down to the center, and then repeat that over here as well. And if you're off a little bit, you can correct it when you go to cut. Now we are going to take these two and we're going to line them up. We're going to place this together. Now if you have clips or paper clips, or I'm not sure what these kind of clips are called, but I use that. I'm going to use that. And that's going to hold that snug here. And then I have another one I'm going to put on the other side. So I'm putting my clips at the 3.5 inch side. And make sure that's topsy-turvy. It is. And now we're going to cut. So as long as you have those where your marks here are at the center of those points, you're fine. Okay, so I'm just going, and then that's why the long blades are so beneficial here, because you're just going to try to take one big cut to the center. There. Now we're at this side. One big cut to the center. There we go. And then I need to take a little, there we go, and remove that. So we have the center cut out. We'll remove those clips, and you can save this to the next time you go to make a cart like this. Okay, so here's the next point. So you're going to get your good adhesive. In this case, I'm going to use the Express It double-sided tape, and we want to put our tape on the back side where the ridge is, because I don't want my mistake to haunt me here. So put that right up against your score line. Okay, and I have to cut mine because when I rip it, I get it all over the place. And right up against that ridge again. And try to keep this tape straight so that when this is attached, it's attached straight. Now, see if I can move that up. Okay, so now we're going to remove this tape, and we're going to bring back our card base again. And what we want to do is we want to line that up with the center mark on here that we put in here with our pencil. And we want to line it up on the right hand side of the score mark. Right here is the score mark, so we want to line that right up against the side, and we want to make sure that that center mark is exactly on this point. And then we are going to close this. We can take our bone folder and rub it up and down to make sure we have it, and that's perfect. So we'll give that another. And now we will do this one. And we're going to remove the backing tape on this. Okay. Now we have the same situation, except we want to be right up against this end. Okay, so this has to be here on this side, so the point is in the center, but we also have to make sure that this is going to fit in well with what we have already on there. So we don't have this coming too far down or this going too far up. So we've got three different things we have to watch out for. We have to make sure that we're on the right side of this score line here. We have to make sure that we're right on the center mark on this end, and we have to make sure that we don't have too much hanging down. So I think I'm about good here, so I'm going to fold this in. I'm going to rub this again, and I'm going to open it up and burnish that score line. Okay? So the next thing we have to do is just snip off the points on these. 1/4 of an inch is fine. Okay, so we have that. Now we're going to remove this pencil mark here, and we're going to remove those. We should be able to match this up without having those marks there, because sometimes you can still see it. So now we have our flower, and we're going to place that in here. Now how this works is this goes underneath, this one goes on top. So this is under, this is on top. So you can see there. So lay that there, and then we have our flower. We are going to find our center here. Out there looks about right. So I just want to put a little mark here so I can find that. I can erase it after. Okay, now we're going to put our foam tape. And I have this big roll, the 3M. This is a 1/4 inch, so you should cut that in half. Because we don't have very much room from the top here, that's why we need to cut it in half. Some people like to put double up their tape, and you can do that. This will work without it, and if you're going to mail it, you may want to consider that. So this goes on the back side, and try to put it nice as high as you can to that edge, because we want to make sure we have enough room for that to move freely. And we're going to apply this on this end, and then we're going to remove the backing here. Okay, so this is up. There's less space between here and here, so that's how come I know that it's up. I'll move that in with the camera range, and then I'm just going to line that up with the pencil mark. And you have a little bit of time before you have to press this down with this tape. You can move it about without pressing it down. That seems to be about it. So I'll push that there and here, and then we'll remove this little pencil mark, and then you can stamp if you like, and we'll have a, so we close it. If you take your bone folder and rub that down the side, and then flip it over and do it on the back side, it will open and close a little better. So here we have it. Open and close, and open and close, and you can see that the middle is exactly in the middle. So there you go. So that is your gatefold card with a shutter. So thank you very much for joining me today and taking time out of your day to spend it with me. Bye bye.